Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're talking about Nintendo Direct September 2025. Now I know this is a little late, but I still want to do this anyway because this was the 40th anniversary, and this was probably one of the better showcases that they've had in quite a while. Usually their September one is big, but I did want to talk about this because I do think it's somewhat of a shift for Nintendo, excuse me, on what they want to focus on and what they want to present. So I'll run through the list right here real quick just to give a rundown of what's actually there. I'll do my best to pronounce, and then I'll just go over some things that I noticed, and then kind of like some thoughts that I think are interesting, maybe even kind of a shift in Nintendo's model. So first, we got to see the Mario Galaxy movie. We also got to see Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 collection. We also got to see Mario Tennis Fever, Mario Bros. Wonder, Yoshi Mysterious Book, Storm Lancers, Dinkum, Popucom, Tomodachi Life, Mortal Kombat Legacy, Final Fantasy Remake Intergrade, Linked Banner of the Spark, Hades 2, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, Dragon Age 7 Reimagined, Virtual Boy, Fatal Frame 2 Remake, Stardew Valley, One Piece, Pirate Warrior 4, Human Fall Flat, Power Wash Sim 2, Metroid Prime 4, Donkey Kong Bonanza DLC, Pokemon Pokopia, Pokemon Legends ZA. Also got to see DLC Mega Dimensions for that. Danganronpa 2x2, Dynasty Warrior Origins, Monster Hunter Stories 3, Resident Evil 9 Requiem, also Resident Evil The Village, and then Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. So it's a good list of games. There's a lot of first party there. There's a lot of third party there. 12 out of the 30, 35-ish games were actually all focused on Nintendo stuff, or first party, which was nice, or exclusives. And then the whole presentation, too, was an hour and 6 minutes, which is kind of nice. We also got to see that Hyrule Warriors was moved by about 3 months. It was moved up early. It used to be kind of more of like a February game, and now it's in November. We also got to see a final date for Metroid Prime at the beginning of December. So yeah, Metroid Prime 4 is going to be actually this year. I thought it was going to be 2026. There's also a greater focus on Switch 1 stuff, which I thought was actually pretty interesting. There's older and newer games. They're reminding, there's some Switch 1 games that are, of course, backwards compatible with the Switch 2. And then there's a lot of Switch 2 stuff that they've actually mentioned, things that we've never seen before. And then there were also a lot of other products, too, like Amiibo's toys, the Nintendo Park, the movie, a book. There was actually a bunch of stuff. So I do find it interesting, though, that it's like, with how big of a push they had for their 40th anniversary, it kind of seems still lackluster on Mario type of content. So we still got a movie. We still got the collection of Galaxy 1 and 2. We still got Mario Bros. Wonder, which, looks okay. And then also Yoshi Mysterious Book. Okay, that looks okay, but still, like, there was some other stuff there that we did not get to see that I was kind of surprised at. There's no Star Fox. There's no Splatoon. There's no Super Smash. There's no Animal Crossing. There's no Legend of Zelda game with Link in it. So, yeah, I was just kind of surprised by some of this. There's also no Pikmin. There's no Advanced Wars. Like, there's multiple IPs that I feel like they haven't touched in quite a while. There's also no updates for Mario Party Jamboree. There's multiple games. And then, too, some of the DLC that they did have, I felt like were actually kind of weak. And we'll go over that as well. But yeah, it was loaded with first and third party. The 35th anniversary that they had was roughly 16 minutes, and this is an hour and 6 minutes. So they definitely packed this full. And then, yeah, the thing, too, that was interesting is they mentioned the theme park. They had multiple amiibos to go over. There were other toys, like the talking flower, to go over. They even had a book, Rosalina's book, that you could get a physical copy of, or you will be able to in the future, which I don't know how many people that's really for, but whichever. One thing, too, that was also nice was we had a lot of official hard dates. Not just the month, but the actual day, like the release date of a lot of this stuff. And the last few kind of like bigger directs that we've had from Nintendo over the last couple of years is a lot of wishy-washiness on exactly when these games are coming out. And two, that some of these games had their their release date shifted up. And with how many games there actually are coming out, it makes sense that they wanted to move up some games. Hopefully that they're ready. They look that way, but we'll have to see. And but yeah, with 35 games, with 2 or 3 DLCs and some collections in there as well, it did look pretty good. I mean, we had Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, the bundle or separate, whichever you prefer. Metroid Prime 4. And it was surprising too that this has a bike in it. That's kind of like open area or open region. We'll have to see how they do this. Full on open world, I don't necessarily believe that, but it looks like kind of like a Rage 2 type of game where there is an open area to explore, but like there's definitely points where you can get off your bikes, roam around, and do the normal first person shooter thing like we expect in a Metroid Prime game. But I'm not really sure with the open world how engaging it's really going to be. Kind of like Sandlot. And that's not to necessarily knock on the game. I'm not saying it has to be full of content, but if you actually go back and you watch some of that trailer, man, does it look barren out there. So I'm a little concerned about that. Using the motorbike might just be from point A to point B type of a thing. We also got to see Hyrule Warriors, but your Hyrule, it's a Hyrule Warrior as Zelda. There's again no mention of Link. He's probably not even born yet at this point. And but something that's interesting too is we also have another Dynasty Warrior Origins game that's actually coming in January. So they're making sure that Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is coming first, and then a couple of months later they're going to have Dynasty Warrior Origins. So that way it's not directly competing, because definitely Dynasty Warrior Origins looks better. There's more going on. But some of these games too, I'm not entirely sure if the Switch 2 can run these very well. So like one of them for sure is going to be Resident Evil 9 Requiem. It's like, is that actually going to run well? And again, we just got kind of like a redo of a trailer we've already seen with really no combat in it at all. And then Dynasty Warrior Origins, that can be a pretty heavy game at certain points, especially with all of the AoE and all of the enemies on the map and everything. And then also the Final 7 Remake Integrate. Is that going to look good? So it's like with some games, we've already seen that the Switch 2 really struggles, and that dev kits, not getting dev kits to third party was maybe kind of a bad idea. Because again, some of these games, they're not optimized well. They don't run well. And I fear for some of these other games. I'm sure the first party, they're going to run fine. But all of the third party stuff, some of the more physically demanding ones on the hardware and the upscaler, I'm not sure if that's really going to look too great, like what we've seen with some other stuff. We also got to see, too, that we have Mario 10 is coming back, though I don't know too many that are going to be super excited about that. Also, Pokemon Legends ZA, we got to see some DLC, though, for the game, which you can actually pre-order right now before the game's even out, which is kind of surprising. And then also there was Donkey Kong Bonanza, that DLC. And it's like we're a month out from release and we have DLC already. So it's like they knew Donkey Kong Bonanza wasn't going to have a ton of real story content there. Maybe a lot of fluff with collecting and trying to get everything. But yeah, that was one of my worries with Bonanza, is that it's like, okay, we've seen maybe 5 or 7 different locations and they ultimately look kind of small, and people get credits rolling within, maybe 8 to 12 hours, depending on how quickly you're playing through the game. So yeah, that's not a lot of time to get credits rolling for a $70 game. And then we have a DLC that, again, looks more like a roguelite, where you're just going to repeat kind of the same part of the game over and over. And some of the reviews out already are showing that, yeah, after 2 or 3 hours, I was good. Like, I basically did everything I wanted to do. I've seen it as much as I wanted, and and then too, it's $20 on top of that. So it might be cheaper than some DLCs out there, but $20 for wanting to play 2 or 3 hours, that's pretty dang expensive. That's some of the most expensive playtime we've probably had in the game. And then taking a look at Pokemon Pokopia, this looked like a mixture of Stardew Valley, Minecraft, and Pound World to me. So it's kind of blocky. like Minecraft, there's kind of like a social aspect to it, like Stardew Valley and setting up your farm and all of that kind of stuff. And then too, like the interaction with Pokemon, moving through different types of technology or different types of items and stuff so that you can move forward to create new things to get to more Pokemon and kind of forming that relationship with them. Okay, yeah, there's kind of an aspect of like Power World to that. So it does look interesting, but it's almost like it's more like a town builder. Yeah, I wonder exactly how open world it's going to be because a lot of it was showing. Okay, here's your homestead. So hopefully there's a good chunk of that outside of the game. There probably is. But again, I wonder how expansive it really is, and that's one of the issues that I've had so far with quite a few of their first party games that are open world or open area or story driven narrative. It's like how big are these games really? Because by the time people are done playing them for the price tag, probably don't feel worth it to some people. And it's kind of shocking how short some of these games are. Like, and then too, some of the updates that they've had, like Mario Kart World, is probably the biggest example, pushing the type of tracks that players don't want. So then they go back to Mario Kart 8, or they're just done playing Worlds already. And that already was the biggest selling game that Nintendo already had for launch. And this is where I get into some of the concerns that I'm starting to see. I mean, the Pokemon Legends DLC before the game's out. The fact that another DLC is out with a month after Donkey Kong Bonanza. The thing, too, that it's like, again, we don't have any announcement of another Link game, even though it's been 2 or 3 years since the last one. There's also other IPs. Let me list them off again: Star Fox, Splatoon, Super Smash, Animal Crossing, Pikmin, Advanced Wars. Like, we don't have any of these IPs that are exclusive just to Nintendo. Uh, and while I'm glad to see some other things about some of the other games, and I appreciate even the pace of the presentation, I still feel like there's stuff lacking there for Nintendo. And for the price tag of the console, with what we get and how much is paywalled, I think the woohoo, the excitement for Switch 2 is really kind of died off already, which is kind of shocking and surprising. The thing, too, is that there wasn't any price tag for any of this. You had to go look it up. So pretty much every single game that's first party from Nintendo is $70, including the Galaxy 1 and 2 bundle. And then if you want to buy those separately, they're $40 a piece. So you get to save a little bit of money there. The DLCs are basically $20, though the Mega Dimensions for Pokemon Legends ZA is $30. And you get a couple of like Mega Evolution Pokemon. $15 a Pokemon? Like, are we seriously seeing that right? I hope that's wrong, because if we're now paying DLCs where it's like $10 or $15 per Mega Evolution, which means you can't even have them all of the time. It's just part of the time during the game. Man, is that expensive. That is some expensive content. Also, too, the push for Switch 1 games toward the beginning of the Direct. That was kind of surprising. Again, we've seen so many Directs where the push has been right at the beginning, for the whole Direct. Hey, Switch 2, Switch 2, Switch 2. I mean, that's been like that for 2 years now, since basically 2023. And now what we're seeing is like, okay, right at the beginning, within like the first 7 minutes, hey, don't forget Switch 1. Like, are we serious? And then let me pull this up. This is actually really interesting. I do want to add this. So this is VG charts, and I really actually like using these guys because they're one of the only ones that's actually tracking sales around the world on how consoles are selling. And there's other stuff that they track as well, but I really like them because yeah, they're tracking everything, and they're starting to track Switch 2 now. Now, the only data that we actually have, I mean, this is weekly hardware, but yeah, the only data that we have right now. Did they just put up August? Or no, that's for that. Anyway, the only data we have right now is actually July, but let's take a look at June. We get to see there was a massive amount of console sales, 5.4 million units sold for the Switch 2 console around the world, which is really, really good. That's actually better than what even a lot of media was talking about. They were saying 5 million, but yeah, 5.4 million. That's crazy. And then we have a drop-off of 1.6 million globally in the next month. And that is a 71% drop that I wasn't expecting. Pretty much the people that have wanted to buy it have bought it now. Maybe now there's going to be a bigger push with the bundle of Pokemon Legends ZA with the console. And we've also never seen that before. It's always been, of course, been Mario Kart. But now we have another IP that's doing that. I wonder, too, if we're also going to get that with Metroid Prime or some other games in the future, like maybe Pokemon Pokemon Champions, I believe it's called, which is coming in 2026. Some of the bigger IPs, but that would make sense. But that would also help sell consoles. And yeah, I can see them doing that in the future if they're not seeing the sales numbers that they want. But yeah, I just do find that overly interesting. And like 7 million sales in just the first couple of months. August is coming pretty soon, later this September. And I'll be tracking this because I am curious exactly what the sales are going to be. But my prediction is that big bang at the beginning, it's going to slow down. We're going to have kind of another bang during the holiday. And then after that, it's just going to kind of curtail off. And with what we know with Nintendo, they have to sell their console in between the generations of PlayStation and Xbox because the preference is to those systems over the Switch 2. And now with the Switch 2 being a minimum of $450 and bundles being $500, man, is that getting expensive. And that's kind of crazy. And then Nintendo has also raised the price of Switch 1 console sales. Anywhere from generally another 10 or another 15%, depending on what you're buying, because they know that people are probably going to go to those, and they're probably pushing people toward the Switch 2. So, in my opinion, it's not actually selling as well as we think it will long term. Again, the launch month, amazing sales, 5.4 million in a month. That is really, really good. But what we're seeing with July is that it's slowed down a lot. And again, I'm already seeing those consoles, the Switch 2 consoles, stay longer on the shelves. They're staying longer in the stores. And it's not just like gone immediately. They're hanging around for about a week and then they're gone. Or they're hanging around for about a week and a half and then they're gone, depending on where they were. And last time I saw, there were still Switch 2s available at Fred Meyer. And they've been there for like a couple of weeks now. So... but maybe too, of course, they're stocking them. But yeah, I do feel like the hype is over. And this is why Nintendo is focusing some more and reminding people about the Switch 1, or that Switch 1 stuff and hardware can still be used for some co-op or for some gameplay features. And they do have a lot of first-party games with actual dates on it, which is nice. But I do feel like Nintendo is having to shift here. And honestly, with what they've done, the damage might already be done. Because... they have right now to get the sales in before the PlayStation 6 comes out and the Xbox Hybrid. And what we're hearing already is that next year, the third-party Xboxes are coming out, and this is where they're going to be able to integrate with the Xbox experience, with Steam and GOG and Epic Game Store. And so, yeah, you're going to have this integration of PC and console gaming for the next-gen Xbox already next year. And I could already see that cutting into Switch 2 sales, because the Switch 2 hasn't been that great either for a lot of people. And I'll try to remember to put some at the end screen here. But I'll have some other videos on Nintendo, and it's just like I just don't feel like I feel like they overestimated and went in the wrong direction, and didn't quite understand their consumer base, which I think is really frustrating. Because again, they have some good games, they have some fun games. But how they've done the Switch 2 is not great. And I'll say it again. I mean, this could be another Wii U moment. The hype was really high, but only for basically the first year of launch, and it quickly curtailed after that. So thanks for tuning in, folks. You can always follow me at GamingGarbage22 over at YouTube. Don't forget our playlist. There's a lot of stuff that we have there. And there's various stuff throughout the week, every week. And if something's not for you, no worries. Just skip on right on through it and wait for the next thing. But there's gaming news, there's deep dives, there's initial looks and reviews when I can do them. And then there's also playthroughs as well, which some of you actually request. And right now we're going through Chronos the New Dawn. My goal is to basically go through once a week. And then there's also Tomb Raider Remaster Dark Angel of Darkness. And yeah, it's been fun actually playing those games with you guys. It's been quite the blast. There's also Twitch as well, if you're interested. And yeah, when I play games, I'll definitely chat with you guys there at Don't Tread on Thee. So... but yeah, Nintendo, I feel like they kind of fumbled the ball here. And hopefully they can fix it pretty quickly. Again, we're getting a lot more games, we're getting a lot more first party stuff, we're getting official dates for a lot of things. Some things are being moved up, which is great. They had a good presentation here, but still, it feels like to a degree they're shifting some of their focus and saying, "Hey, don't forget about Switch 1." And it's literally, 3 months after the launch of the Switch 2. Something just feels a little off there. So with that, folks, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next one.